We have a mission that God has given us. We have an objective. We have a calling that God has given us. We have a purpose. But on our way to fulfilling the purpose, on our way to fulfilling our mission and objective, we get so caught up in trying to address everybody else that doesn't agree with us along the way, we forget about the mission and the objective that God has given us. And it wasn't his real name, it wasn't his real information. He just made a personality on social media.
It's a pleasure to be a part of this.
There once was a man whose name, for the sake of the story, we'll call him Mark. Mark lived in a town where he was very, very well known. He wasn't considered a good guy or a bad guy. He was just a guy that most people just passed by, didn't really care about him. Most people didn't really mind him. He just lived his life. But Mark was a very poor man. And every day he would wake up and just go try to do whatever he can to see how he could make some money. He would struggle by here and there. He would have some deals that would help him make it an income to provide for himself. Now, he got to a point where he was tired of that lifestyle of just having to scrape by. And he was really looking for a way to really change his life. So he decided, you know what? I think I need a real job. A job that I can go to every day. A job that I can get some respect. People can see me and really know that I'm working. And in this job, I want to get a good salary. And so he started asking around and just trying to see where anybody was hiring, where anybody was looking for an extra hand. He was tired of the day-to-day, always trying something new today, something new tomorrow. He really wanted something that could bring stability to his life. Now, for many days he was searching. He would go around to job sites and ask for a job. Most people ignored him. They told him, no, we're busy. We don't need anybody else. We've got enough people. We don't really know you. We don't know your reputation. But one day he happened to land on a job site. Now, he asked around, are you guys hiring? And he had been tired after a long day of searching and searching. And an old man saw him. He happened to be the boss of this company. And he looked at the man, he looked at Mark, and he could tell that Mark had a long day. So he asked Mark, why are you looking for a job? Mark said, I'm tired of living life day to day. I'm tired of trying things left and right. I really want a job that'll give me stability. And if you give me a chance, I will be one of the best workers, the best worker you'll ever see and you'll ever hire. I'm just looking for somebody to give me a chance. So the old man said, you know what? I don't have many openings usually, but you came at the right time today. I have an opening. I have a job that I need someone to do. And if you're willing, if you're ready, you can come and start the job tomorrow. On one condition. You have to come for the job at 9 a.m. You cannot be 1 minute late. You can't be 2 minutes late. If you miss the 9 a.m. window, that's it. You're not going to have the job anymore. Somebody else will take the job. And it's also a test for you to really see if you're committed, because if you're committed, showing up at 9 a.m. tomorrow shouldn't be a problem. So Mark was very excited. Nobody had offered him such a job before. He wasn't even going to ask, all the details about the job. He was just excited to have a job. And he said, yes, you can definitely count on me. I will be there at 9 a.m. tomorrow. No matter what, I will be there at 9 a.m. He thanked the old man, got down his information. He went back home. That walk home that day was a very happy walk back home. He was excited. Somebody finally took a chance on him. Somebody finally decided to give him a job. And he knew all he had to do was make it to the job site at 9 a.m. and the job would be his. So that night he went back home. He picked out the best outfit that he could find for the next day. He wanted to make sure that he would be ready. And when the time comes, he would show up on time and make a good first impression. So he found his best suit that he hadn't worn in quite some time. It was a nice suit, and he said, okay, I found the outfit for tomorrow. Now I just need to go get some good sleep so that I'm ready for tomorrow. So Mark went to bed. Early in the morning, around 6 a.m., Mark woke up. He was very excited. As a matter of fact, he couldn't really sleep last night because he was so excited for the job. And so he wakes up in the morning and he puts on his best suit, gets dressed, gets ready. It's quite a distance between where his house is and where the job site is, so he knows he has a long walk. It's going to be about an hour-long walk to get to the job site. So he decided, you know what? I'm going to give myself some extra time just to make sure I get there on time. So he decided, I'm going to leave the house today. The job was supposed to start at 9. He said, I'm going to leave the house at 7:30. If it's 1 hour from here to the job site, by 8:30 I should be at the job site, giving me an extra 30-minute window for the 9 a.m. start time. And if they see that I showed up early, they'll really appreciate the effort that I put in. Now, Mark leaves the house, locks the door. He begins walking to the job site. A few minutes into the walk, he passes by a man. The man sees him wearing a suit. The man starts laughing at him. And he says, oh, Mark, you decided to get a suit today. I wonder what's the occasion. He starts laughing at him and mocking him. Why are you wearing a suit at 8 a.m.? And the thing about Mark wasn't really a guy that liked to be insulted. If you insulted Mark had to insult you back. He was a man that was he wanted his reputation to remain intact, and he was a man that really didn't let a lot of things slide. So the man insulted Mark and mocked Mark a little bit. Mark was upset. He stopped for a minute to address the man, and for the sake of the audience, I will not repeat all the words that Mark said to the man, but Mark was very frustrated. He cussed and said many bad words to the man, and then he kept on in his journey. He said, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time on this guy. After about 5-10 minutes of cursing the man, he continued walking. 10 minutes later, he passed by a woman. The woman saw Mark and started laughing at Mark and saying, oh, where are you going, Mark? You're wearing a suit today? How come you didn't do your hair? The woman started making fun of Mark's hair. Mark stopped again for a few minutes to also address the woman. Why don't you mind your business? Why are you so worried about my hair? Why don't you worry about your hair? And many other words. After about another 10 minutes, he decided, I'm gonna forget about this woman and just keep going, continue on my journey. About 10 minutes later, a child passed by Mark, and the child was playing around. He was being careless, and he spilled some water on Mark's suit. Mark was so upset because that was his very favorite suit and the suit he had picked out to go to the job site. So Mark was angry. He started yelling at the child, telling the child to be careful, not to play around like that. He's ruining people's lives. He spent about another 5-10 minutes addressing the child. Now at this point, Mark has kind of lost track of time. He's been addressing everybody along the way. He's kind of lost track of time, and he's forgetting that his 9 a.m. appointment is coming up. At this point, it's already 8:20, and the job starts in about 40 minutes. So he finishes with the child. He continues on forward. A few minutes again ahead, something else happens. He's walking, a car passes by, drives on rainwater on the ground, and all of you know what happens when you drive on rainwater. It splashes on the side, and the rainwater splashes on Mark's suit again. Mark has had it. This is the fourth thing that has happened that has just ruined his day so far. He's just trying to get to the job site, but everybody keeps testing him today. Everybody keeps trying him today. So he starts yelling at the car. He starts yelling at the driver. He gets into an argument. Another 10-15 minutes are spent arguing with the driver. Now it's around 8:35. There's 25 minutes left to get to the job site. But Mark still has quite a distance to go. So Mark starts walking. He realizes, I got to get to my job site. He picks up the pace a little bit. Somewhere along the way, another person stops him to talk to him. And the man starts telling Mark, you are the guy that I saw yesterday. You are always the guy that's always going around harassing people, looking for work, looking for a job. You're not really the guy I want to be around. And the man exchanges many words with Mark. Mark gets upset. Mark says some things back that are not really appropriate for the situation. He spends too much time. At this point, it's 8:50. He still has about 30 minutes to go before he gets to the job site. But the job site, he has to be there in 10 minutes. So he picks up the pace, he runs. He makes it to the job site at around 9:15. He gets to the door, and the old man is there waiting. And he tells the old man, I'm so sorry. I really wanted to be here on time, but a lot of things just got in the way. And so the old man asks him, what got in the way? You know, the deadline was 9 a.m. and I told you if you come 1 minute past the due time, there's no job for you. He said, I know, I understand, but it's just, I had picked out my best suit and I was so ready, I was motivated to come to work, but everybody just kept trying me today. Everybody just kept insulting me. Everybody just kept harassing me. Even my suit, as you can see, it got dirtied because everybody was just trying me today, and I really had to address them. So the old man looked at Mark and asked Mark, what was more important to you? Addressing the people who were insulting you or making it to the job site? Mark says, I really wanted to make it to the job site, but I just couldn't let those things go. And the old man said, that's your problem. You're not ready yet for work, because rather than focusing on the work that you've been looking for so much, you are more focused on addressing everyone that insulted you and harassed you along the way. Now, that story, many of us are Mark. And today, that's what I want to speak about a little bit through the theme of that story. Mark was a man who, he was given an opportunity. He was given an opportunity to do really good work and change and turn his life around. But Mark was a man who just didn't know how to let things go. And because he didn't know how to let things go, he was caught up in every little thing that came along the way and would always forget about his objective and his mission in life. That's you and I today. If you are watching this episode today after watching the last episode that I covered, addressing and dealing with the pain in your heart, maybe the question you were asking yourself at the end of the video, how exactly do I deal with my pain? How exactly do I overcome the hurt that I've been going through? And that's the answer right there. One of the best ways to overcome pain and heartache is to let it go. It sounds so simple, but those words are powerful. Just let it go. This was exactly what Mark couldn't do. Mark was a type of man who, if you insulted him, he had to insult you back. If you offended him, he had to find a way to get even with you. Whatever you did to Mark, he had to reciprocate and do the same thing back to you. But Mark didn't realize that every minute he spent addressing the people along his journey was a minute he was going to be late for the job site that he had to make it to. And so Mark lost a great opportunity, a life-changing opportunity, because he was so focused on addressing the people along the way to the job. That's you and I today, oftentimes. We have a mission that God has given us. We have an objective. We have a calling that God has given us. We have a purpose. But on our way to fulfilling the purpose, on our way to fulfilling our mission and objective, we get so caught up in trying to address everybody else that doesn't agree with us along the way, we forget about the mission and the objective that God has given us. We are so focused on addressing the John, we are so focused on addressing the Marys, we are so focused on addressing the children, all the things that are not going right, everybody that comes our way and does something that really aggravates us. We focus so much on trying to address them and getting even with them, we forget about the mission ahead of us. And so many of us, God has given us our purpose. He has given us our objective. We know the purpose. But on our way to fulfilling the purpose, we're getting sidetracked trying to deal with everybody else that's getting in the way. But the key here is to just learn to let things go. If Mark had just let the man pass by and insult him and keep walking, if Mark had just let the woman insult him, if Mark had just let the child spill the water, if Mark had just left the car to splash him, if he just ignored all those things and just kept walking to get to the job site, Mark would have had a job that day. But addressing the things along the way was more important to him than making it to the job site. And in the end, he lost the job, and the people who insulted him didn't provide anything to him. They were all the more reason why he lost a job. That's where many of us are at in life. You know, we are trying to do something, maybe for God, maybe for ourselves. We're trying to make a step forward in our lives. We feel stagnant and we see the direction. We know the direction we have to go in. We know the objective. We know the end goal. But every time we want to make a step forward, something happens that draws our attention away from where we're supposed to be going. We start dealing with the things in the moment and forget about where we're supposed to be going. And in our Christian lives, that's where many of us are failing. These things could be insults from other people. It could be misunderstandings from other people, people that don't understand what it is God has called you to do. So they give you their unsolicited opinions, and you get so caught up trying to address their opinions, you forget about the one who gave you the mission. The one who gave you the mission didn't tell you you have to address everybody else. He just told you, get to the job site, do the job. But on the way to the job site, you're trying to address everybody else, and you miss out on what it is you're supposed to be doing. Now, for some, it's insults, it's opinions. For others, it's distractions. All of these things are there to distract you from fulfilling your purpose and your destiny. Now, the problem is, we forsake our destiny trying to fight people who have no place in our destinies. People who have no place in your future. People who have no place where you're going, but you're spending your valued time dealing and addressing with those people. Distractions that have no room where you're going. You are the one given the job. You are the one given the mission. You are the one with the purpose. But you're wasting your time with things and people that have no place and no room in your purpose. Just think about that for a second. That could be you. That was me at some point. You know, before I really got serious and decided to really give my all and my best in everything that I do for God, everything was a distraction. People were a distraction. My job was a distraction. My friends were a distraction. My education was a distraction. But then I got to a point I realized that if I really want to make a step forward, if I really want to get to where I'm going, I have to tune out everything else around me. Even if people don't agree with me, even if people don't understand what I'm doing or what I'm trying to do, I have to tune those things out for the sake of where I'm trying to get to. The one who gave me the mission, he won't take the excuse that I had to address the person that spoke to me. I had to address this thing that came up. It doesn't matter to him. He didn't employ those things. He didn't employ those people. He chose to employ me. And it's my mission, it's my objective to make sure that I fulfill what God called me to do. So whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you're dealing with, think about your purpose and ask yourself one question. Is my purpose bigger than the temporary circumstances I find myself in? Is my purpose bigger than the temporary setbacks I find myself in? It's okay to have setbacks, but don't dwell in the setbacks. It's okay to just let things go. And that's the statement I want you to remember. By the end of this session, there's one thing that I want you to get in the habit of saying. Just let it go. The next time you're trying to get something done and something unexpected happens, rather than dwelling on the unexpected, just let it go. Focus on the mission. I want you to think of another man. This man has decided he's gonna go. He knows the direction, he knows the destination. But as he begins to make that step forward, every time somebody comes and insults him, every time somebody comes and talks to him, he follows the person that came to address him. It's one person today, it's another person tomorrow. But eventually you find that you will get so caught up chasing the people that are meeting you along the way, you never actually get to where you're supposed to go to. Now that's where the devil has succeeded in getting many of us to fail. Because he knows if he leaves us unattended, if he leaves us to ourselves, we're going to get to where we have to get to. We're going to do the work we have to do, and we're a threat to his kingdom. But how can he stop us? He can't take the destination away, but he can bring distractions along the way. And that's what the enemy is an expert of. He's an expert at bringing distractions along your way to your destination. Because if he can get you to get caught up in the distraction, you'll forget about where you have to go and you won't make it on time. Now God is calling each and every one of us. God is calling each and every one of us. He wants to use each and every one of us. He wants to be expressed and manifested through each and every one of us. He has a mission that He has given to each and every one of us. But are we going to focus on what He has given us and what He has called us to do? Or are we going to focus on every distraction that comes along the way? There is a scripture that comes to mind as I think about this. It's in Philippians chapter 3, I believe, verse 13 and 14. Paul, speaking to the Philippians, he says, I am not one who has already made it or attained the prize, but forgetting what is behind, I press on to the prize and to the mark that is ahead. And from that statement, from that scripture, we learn a very valuable lesson in life. You have to forget about the past. You have to forget about the temporary things. Your sight and your focus has to be on where you're trying to get to, where you're trying to go. Now, maybe you don't know where it is you're trying to go, and that's even a bigger problem. And that requires a whole other talk of its own. But you have to figure out, where are you going? When you know where you're going, then you will know that nothing else matters along the way, because you have to get to where you're going. I once heard a man who was preaching, and he explained, where you're going determines what you will bring with you. You know, he gave the example. If you're going to church, you don't bring a towel to go to church. You don't bring a broom to go to church. When you're going to church, you wake up in the morning, you get dressed, you take your Bible, you go to church. When you're going to your job, many of us don't bring our Bibles to a job. We pack our bags, we pack the equipment that we'll need at the job, and we go to our job. Because where we're going, some things will be needed and other things will not be needed. Now think about where you're going spiritually. Think about your destination. Think about your purpose. What has God called you to do? Where is your end goal, your end destination? And now ask yourself, are the things you're bringing along this journey really going to enter into the place where you're going? The purpose and the divine mission God has given you, are the people you're walking with today, are the things you're carrying with you today in your heart, do they have a place where you're going? If the answer is no, again, it's time to let those things go. Just let it go. There is no point in trying to keep all these things, walk with all these things, and then you miss out on the destination, and then you're stuck here with things that have no place where you're supposed to be going. So my message for all of you today is learn to let things go. If you can learn to let things go, you're creating a better life for yourself. And you know what happens when you learn to let things go? Nothing really hurts you anymore. When you learn to accept the fact that you're not in control of everything that happens around you, you're not in control of who talks to you or what they say, who does what to you or against you, you're not in control of all those things. You're only in control of how you respond in that moment. And that's where the power of letting things go really comes in. If you're a person that has mastered the art of letting things go, there's nothing that can hurt you. There is nothing that can keep you from getting to where you have to go, because you understand and you know the mission is bigger than the temporary setbacks. The objective and the purpose is bigger, and it's worth more to you. You value it more than the insults that people will send along the way, than the misunderstandings you'll face along the way. You know the cost you're paying, and you're willing to pay that cost every day. And so, surround yourself with people that have a similar mindset. Don't surround yourself with people that are getting so caught up in all the little things that are happening. Every little argument, they want to partake in the argument. Every little misunderstanding, they dwell in the misunderstanding. You have a different purpose than they do. Maybe they haven't realized theirs, but don't give up on yours for the sake of trying to make them happy. And so many of us are not making progress, not because we don't know what to do. We know what to do, but we're focused on the wrong things. It's time to get back and really focus on what it is God has called you to do. It's late in 2025 already. We are 3 months in, and if you haven't been making progress towards your goals this year, there's no better time to start than now. You've already lost 3 months. And in listening to this, don't just listen and say, you know what, I'm going to get on this next week. I'm going to get on this next month. The best time to do something is right now. Tomorrow is not guaranteed to you. Stop being distracted by every little thing that comes along the way. It is time to focus on what God has called you to do. You are hearing of the testimonies of the stories all around the world. People are really having a revival and realizing that God's coming is sooner today than it was yesterday. You don't want to be found unprepared and unready. When the Master calls and he asks for your report card of what you have done with the time you've had on earth, you don't want to tell him, I need a little bit more time. You don't want to be like King Hezekiah, I need 15 more years. If you're ready, if you've been doing what you're supposed to be doing today, you won't need 15 more years. But many of us are going to be like King Hezekiah when the Lord comes. We're going to tell him, Lord, I need 15 more years to set things in order. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that's ready today. And so I want to give my best and my all each and every single day so that I don't need 15 years tomorrow. If I get 15 years, it's a blessing. I'll do even more. But all I have is today. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. The only thing I have is today. Learn to take that mindset with you in everything you do. If you approach life that way, you will be more focused. You'll be more disciplined. And you know the thing about discipline, many of us think that discipline is a gift. Many of us pray to have discipline. There is no prayer you will ever make that will give you discipline. God doesn't give you discipline. Discipline is a choice you have to make. Nobody prayed and woke up and they were disciplined. Nobody fasted and woke up and they were given discipline. Nobody had a vision and they were given discipline. The men who had discipline made a choice that their priorities mattered more than everything else. And they chose to do day by day, every day, whatever it took to make sure that they focused on the priorities. And that priority for them was God and what God called them to do. When you look at a man like Paul in the Bible, do you think Paul prayed his way to discipline? No. He worked his way to discipline. But today, many of us are not willing to put in the work. We're praying in our beds for discipline. How are you going to pray your way to discipline in a bed? The bed and discipline don't really go along together. And so you have to learn to overcome some of these things if you really want to get discipline. The Bible tells us that in each age, there must be overcomers. But if we're failing to even overcome sleep, I can't even overcome my bed, I can't even overcome food, how am I going to overcome the spirits of this age? So many of us have already lost before we even began the battle. Don't let that be you today. Learn to let some things go for the sake of what matters most and what is important. And so that's the message I want to leave you with today. Hope it's a blessing to you and an encouragement. And don't take it as though it's someone speaking against you. My words are meant to encourage you, to push you forward. Because many of you, I know you're capable of doing what it is God has called you to do, but distractions have gotten in the way. Put the distractions aside. Focus on the goal, focus on the mission. Make the journey, ignore everything else. That's my message for you today. 2 men breaking bread.